All right, thank you guys for coming here today. If you don't know who I am, my name's Peter, and I'm actually the youth minister at your school. So if you have brothers or sisters in grade 7 or up who ever come to the youth group, if you've heard about that, I'm the guy who puts that on, which means I spend a lot of time here at the church and we play games and stuff. And one of the things that I do is teach teenagers mostly, about religion. And so Father asked if I would come in and speak to you guys today when you came in for Adoration. Those of you who are here in person, I think it's grade 5s, right? Yeah? You guys are very lucky that you get to be here in person, because Adoration is kind of a cool experience. Here's what happened. In the Bible, I'm going to ask you guys some interactive questions here. See if you know the answer. There was a guy who set people free from Egypt. Who knows who that was? Oh, up there. Yeah. Moses is the correct answer. Good job. So Moses, when he set them free, they had some sacred things, right? They had a special kind of bread they ate in the desert called manna. They had the 10 Commandments. Moses' brother Aaron had a rod, and they had these sacred things, and they said, hey, let's put them in a special treasure chest. And that treasure chest was called the Ark of the Covenant. And they said, look, all these sacred things are in this special treasure chest. It's like God is especially there. We know God's everywhere, right? Well, they said God is especially in the Ark of the Covenant, or actually kind of above the Ark of the Covenant. And so the Ark of the Covenant had 2 statues of angels looking at each other. And this, like my hands represent their wings. And their wings were almost touching. And they thought, God is right there. And so they thought this was so sacred that they thought that if they brought it into battle, like if they had to go to war, people would bring it in and they'd be like, God is with us. He's going to win the war. Well, what's going to happen is when they traveled from place to place, they made a very special tent for the Ark of the Covenant. And that tent was called the Tabernacle. Now, does anyone know what this gold box is called? Yeah. The Tabernacle. That's not a coincidence, okay? The tent was called the Tabernacle and the gold box was called the Tabernacle. Here's what's going to happen. They're going to go with this tent and they're going to say, you can only go in there if you're a priest and you have to do all these special things and God will bless you, but you don't want to just like open this up and disrespect it, right? If you're not used to Catholic Church, man, when you come in here, you show so much respect to the tabernacle. That's what we genuflect to and all these things, right? Because it's so sacred. Well, what's going to happen is eventually there's going to be a king. Now, this king starts off as a young kid and he has to defeat a giant. Who am I talking about? Yes, sir. Not Daniel. Good. You're close. David corrected himself. Good man. So David was this kid who defeated a giant because God helped him. And when we say giant, I don't mean like someone who's going to step on you, but I mean like a great big warrior, right? And he was able to defeat this great big warrior because God was on his side. Well, one day he says to God, he becomes king. He says to God, he's like, yo, I live in a palace and you live in a tent. We need to build a temple for you. And so what he's going to do is he's going to build a temple, which is like a really fancy church from back then. He builds a temple. And just like our church today, there's going to be an altar where they offer sacrifices. And there's going to be a room at the back that they call the Holy of Holies. Well, when Jesus came and he died, something happened. Remember I said that the tabernacle, nobody could go in but the priests? The Holy of Holies was the room that they're going to put the Ark of the Covenant in the temple. Well, nobody could go in there. It was too holy. Nobody could be in that space. Well, when Jesus died on the cross, the curtain that separated the Holy of Holies from the rest of the temple was torn in half. And we said, what does this mean? Does it mean God's leaving the temple? What we understand is that it means that we can now be in the presence of God. So we still have a tabernacle in Catholic churches. We still have the altar. We still have the tabernacle. What's going to happen during adoration is Father's going to open the tabernacle. So this is going to be like we're going to come into the presence of God in a way, God's everywhere, but in a very, very special way that we're not in the presence of God the rest of the time. He's going to open it and he's going to take out a host. Now the host, it looks like bread, but we believe it's actually Jesus, and he comes in the form of bread. And he's going to take that host and put it in a monstrance. See this shiny thing down here that looks like the sun? If you can't see it, that's okay. Father's going to put it right here where everyone can see it. Father's going to put the host into the monstrance, and for a few minutes, we're just going to be in the presence of Jesus. Now, there's different things that people can do when they're in the presence of Jesus. Sometimes people sing songs, sometimes they read readings and they do prayers. What I thought would be cool for you guys today is if we just were silent. Now, that can be pretty hard when you're in grade 5 to go 5 minutes of silence, right? But that's what we're going to do, because this is a profound way for us to pray, to just sit in silence. What I want you to do, guys, I don't want you to be sitting there thinking about how bored you are and falling asleep and right, 5 minutes of quiet. What I want you to do is for 5 minutes, try to pray. Try to speak to God. Say, God, this is what's on my heart. I'm worried about my grandma. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about school or whatever. Or thank you, God, for this. But it's just between you and God. And for 5 minutes, spend some real time in prayer, because we're going to have that opportunity to be in his presence in this room. When that tabernacle gets opened and the host comes here, what happens is it's like this entire room became the tabernacle. That's why I said you guys who are here in person are so lucky, because there's other people watching it on their screens back at St. Matt's right now, and they're lucky too that they get to witness this, but you guys are actually in the room that's going to be the tabernacle. You're going to be in the space that is the Holy of Holies, which when you think about it, that's pretty crazy. So here's how this is going to look. Father is going to come up. He's going to open the tabernacle, take the host out, put it in the monstrance. Everything is so sacred. I want you to notice he won't even touch things with his bare hands. He's got this special veil, this thing on, and he's going to use that to touch the monstrance, to treat it all sacred. When he does that, we're all going to kneel. And we'll all kneel for a few minutes, and then I'm going to say that you can sit. When it's time to sit, you can keep kneeling if you want to, but what happens is sometimes when you're kneeling, then you're thinking about how sore your knees are instead of praying. So you can keep kneeling or sit, whichever one helps you pray, but we're just going to stay totally quiet for about 5 minutes, okay? And then we're going to do benediction. So I'll ask you to kneel again, and Father will come up, and he's going to hold up the monstrance, and he's going to bless you with it. And it's a very special kind of blessing. So whatever you prayed for, God is going to bless those things that you are praying for. Okay? Any questions before we start? Yes, ma'am. Can you take your mask down? I can't hear you. Yeah. The tabernacle? Yeah. No, there is a tabernacle in every Catholic church. So we've been able to recreate them all over the place. The question was, if you couldn't hear it, is the tabernacle as old as Jesus? No, the church is modeled on the old temple. And so every Catholic church has a tabernacle. Actually, you guys even have one at your school, which is really cool. If you go in your chapel, there's a tabernacle. Is the Blessed Sacrament in it? Not yet, but you do have somewhere that we could put the Blessed Sacrament. Yes? I think, so I was allowed to because I was speaking. You have to keep your mask on when you're not speaking at the church, okay? But it's only going to be 5 minutes. Okay, last question. The tabernacle. So the original tabernacle was a tent, and then it was in the temple, it was an entire room that was covered in gold. So yeah, this one is just a small copy, but it's still real because God is really there. The point of that curtain being torn is now God is really present in every church. Okay, I'm not going to take more questions right now because we want to get into the actual adoration. So please kneel. Whenever you're kneeling, try to make sure you can see the monstrance. That's what you want to look at. So someone's big head is in your way. Okay, thank you guys very much. Grade 5s, I thought you were very respectful during that time. Like I said, 5 minutes of silence can feel pretty hard to grade 5s. How many people found it kind of hard and you were like sleeping and daydreaming? Did anyone find it actually kind of refreshing to have 5 minutes of silence? Yeah, every grade 5 teacher thinks it's refreshing. So continue to do that. If you can't come into the church and be in the presence of Jesus in that really intimate way, continue to go back to Jesus and spend time in silence. I will also mention to you guys and to the teachers, I'm available. There was a lot of questions, a lot of hands went up, and I thought, I better not keep taking questions. We wanted to get into the adoration. But I am available to come to your classes, and I like doing Q&A, where you guys just ask whatever religion questions. What I get out of it is I get to know students at St. Matt's, and what students get is you get to learn stuff about Jesus, and what teachers get is you can kick your feet up and mark for half an hour. So send me an email, and we'll make arrangements for that to happen. That's all I have to say. I don't know if you guys have a way of announcing how we're going to depart. Okay. I think the thing we should do then is, why don't you go back out the same doors you came in. But one thing, I wasn't in here when you came in, so I'm not sure. Maybe you knew to do this. You need to genuflect as you exit. So a genuflection, I'm getting nods. I think you guys already know this. But a genuflection is a sign of respect to the tabernacle, the sacred thing. And what you do is knee all the way to the ground and a sign of the cross. And this is what you're focusing on. And you always do that when you come in or out of this room, which is called the sanctuary. So if you genuflect, you can leave through the same door you came in from. Okay, that's okay. And then out in the parking lot, the teachers will organize you. Thanks, guys. You guys were great.